start again. It's a redskin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 10 of the Courtside. I'm Connor, and I'm joined by my co-host Akash.
What's up, everybody? My name is Akash, and I'm here for episode 10 of the Courtside.
Today, we'll be talking about March Madness, having a preview of some teams who can contend for the national championship, and then maybe some sleeper teams, and Akash will give you some insight on NBA prospects for the upcoming NBA draft. Without further ado, let's get it started. So like I said, we're going to be talking about some contenders, and some contenders that I see for March Madness. I see that there are three main contenders in Gonzaga, Baylor, and Illinois, who I think Illinois is my favorite to come out of March Madness, definitely to make the Final Four, but they just had a really strong end of the season. I think they have a really good shot to win the national championship. And then Baylor, they've struggled a little bit recently, but I think they can pick it back up. They have a lot of talented wings with Jared Butler and Mitchell, I believe. And I think that they're definitely going to make the Final Four. I don't think they're that in jeopardy of being upset, but you never know. It's March Madness. And then Gonzaga is the final contender that I see, led by Jalen Suggs and Drew Timme and some other key role players. They're number one in the country right now, I believe, based on AP polls. And Akash, can you give me some more insight on Jalen Suggs, a future NBA prospect?
Yeah, for sure. So Jalen Suggs, right? The dude from Gonzaga, one of the best players on their team. And from what I can tell from highlights and clip recordings, articles from his coaches and teammates, and even just analytics, right? Like ESPN, what their take is. And then also from what I've seen, he has a lot of speed, first of all, up and down the court, getting on the fast break, and also finishing. And a lot of these other prospects, they're good at finishing and shooting, but I feel like Jalen Suggs is one of the best at finishing, and he's also a great rebounder back on defense, offensive and defensive boards. He's averaging 14.3 points this season, so about, again, just 14, 5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists, so almost 5 assists. So he has great playmaking vision. He's a guard, stands at 6'4", 205 pounds. Out of all these guys, he is one of the most talented, I believe. There are a few others that I think are better, but Jalen Suggs is someone definitely to look out for, especially in the upcoming NBA draft that we're going to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He has a lot of playmaking ability, and he's a good rebounder. He has good size for a guard to play in the NBA, because that's what a lot of NBA guards have nowadays. And then also, I watched him play in the West Coast Conference Championship, I believe. He's really clutch. He made 3 clutch threes versus BYU to send them to the NCAA tournament because they get automatic bid into the tournament when they win their conference. And I think that NBA players need that clutchness. They can't shy away when the lights turn on and it's game time. They can't shy away. That's what NBA players need. That's what Dame has, Steph, LeBron. If you're going to be an NBA prospect, you need to show up in the big time, when it's time to make a play to win the game for your team.
Yep.
Going on to some sleeper teams, my favorite team, LSU, I think they're definitely a sleeper team to make the Final Four. I don't think they could necessarily win the national championship, because come Final Four, you're going to need a lot of defense, and LSU doesn't really have that defense. But they have 4 main players, Darius Days, Trendon Watford, Devontae Smart, and Cam Thomas. And all 4 of those guys can put up 20 or 30 on any given night. To make a deep run into March Madness, you're going to need offense. To win the championship, you're going to need a little balance of defense and offense. But I think to make a run, you're going to need a lot of explosive offense. That's what college basketball, partially the NBA, but a lot of college basketball is focused on offense, because high school teams push their kids to put offense, because that's like the new era of our game today.
Exactly.
And a main person, like a key showing of that, is Cam Thomas. He rarely plays defense, but he can find his shot as well as the best of them, and he can find his shot as well as NBA level players. So can you give me some insight, background on Cam Thomas?
Yeah. So I want to actually go back to a point that you mentioned earlier, right, Connor, which was the new era of basketball in the NBA and just in general in basketball, right? Back in the day, in the 90s, 80s, MJ's era, however you want to put it, there used to be a lot of defensive bigs, right, who their sole purpose was to be the 7-foot guy in the paint, block all the shots, get all the rebounds for the smaller dudes, and help their team, I bet, on the defensive end. But what you see now is with the revolution almost with guards like Steph, Dame, James Harden, everybody, Kyrie, everybody you want to name, along with other dudes, but they're pushing these big men such as Jokic, such as Embiid, such as Brook Lopez. So they're pushing these guys, even Giannis, to extend their game out to the three-point line, right? You see Jokic taking mid-range shots that are so fluid and so good in clutch moments, as well as Embiid, who's having an MVP season this year. So like you said, a lot of these prospects, they need offensive material in their resume whenever they're going on to their draft. They need this offensive boost behind their game. Out of a lot of these prospects, I believe Cameron Thomas is one of the best. And the thing that makes him one of the best is his versatility, right? When I look at someone like Cameron Thomas, I don't know if I want to compare him to one like particular NBA player, but I see a lot of James Harden in him. He's really good at three-point shooting, and he's really good at driving and finishing. And he can take those mid-range shots like the old James Harden did. But Cameron Thomas is an excellent three-point shooter, and that's why I think he's a really lethal threat when it comes to his offensive game. He's averaging about 23 points. Again, not great on the defensive end, only averaging about 3 rebounds. Not the best playmaker, so a little selfish. He can improve on that to rack up his NBA stock. But he's averaging about like 2 assists per game. His field goal percentage is phenomenal. It's at 41% almost. So that's something to look out for. I think Cameron Thomas is going to be one of the highest recruited players coming out of college from LSU in the NBA draft whenever he applies for that. But he is definitely a lethal threat. I don't know if he's the only player who can carry LSU to a victory or a championship, but someone to definitely look out for.
Yeah, I really loved your comparison to James Harden because both players are very streaky. They're either off or on. Because today in the SEC championship, Cam Thomas had like 15 points and 3 for 3 from 3 within the first 10 minutes of the game. But after that, he had like 5 points on 4 free throws. So if he's on, he's gonna light you up. But if he's not on, he's kind of on the side, not doing as much. That's what he needs to focus on to improve his draft stock, like his consistency and his overall ability to score throughout the whole game and not taking any breaks. And then moving on to some other sleeper teams, I saw that Loyola Chicago. I mean, if you're a huge college basketball fan, you remember their final as an 11 seed in 2018. Sister Jean was an icon, and then they would end up losing in the Final Four, but they would go on and have buzzer beaters, and they would have game winners. They just had a stacked team then. Now they're actually projected to be an 8 seed, which is better than what they were at 2018 as an 11 seed. But I don't know that they can make that run because as an 11 seed, you don't have to play as good of teams like the number 1 seed, but as an 8 seed in the second round, they would have to play a number 1 seed. And as I'm looking at the number 1 seeds, Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, I don't think they can overcome one of those teams, but they're just someone to look out for March Madness.
Yeah, definitely.
And then a third team is Texas Tech. Mac McClung, I believe he's either a junior or senior, a transfer from Georgetown. I think he's key to their run maybe to the Final Four. But right now they're a 5 or a 6 seed. That's a pretty good spot to make a run because they would have to play a 3 and then, they have to play an 11 and a 3 and then a 2. But they don't have to face one of those giant teams like a Gonzaga or someone like that, which also helps into LSU because right now they're 6 or 7.
Yeah, I like what you said about Texas Tech, especially with Mac McClung. He's one of my favorite college basketball players because I saw him play live, which is pretty cool at Georgetown before he transferred over to Texas Tech. I believe he's a junior this year. I like him because he's really powerful on the offensive end when it comes to shooting from mid-range and as well as three-point range. He has a really good shooting percentage, a field goal shooting percentage, just like Cam Thomas at 42.3%, which is really good for college extent or degree. The only thing is, I don't know if Mac McClung can step up in the clutch. I know he's had a solid clutch career, but I don't know if it's enough. That's what I'm saying. I may be wrong, okay? Because certainly I'm not an expert at college basketball statistics or whatnot, but fan perspective, I just don't know if he has enough to lead them to a championship. I may be wrong again, but that's just what I think.
Yeah, I see your point. I believe he's made one game winner throughout his career, but come March Madness and the clutch time, it's a lot more pressure than in the regular season. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some teams that could be potentially upset. We've been talking about sleeper teams who could pull off an upset against one of the higher seeds. Now I'm going to talk about some teams that I think are in jeopardy of being upset in a March Madness, because we've seen a lot of upsets in the past years for March Madness. It is known for that. There's a few teams that I see that might not have the depth or the ability to make a deep run and could get upset in the early rounds. One is actually a 1 seed. The other 3 1 seeds are solid. I think they're going to make a deep run. But Michigan has had some injuries. They lost to Illinois without their best player, I believe, a few weeks ago, but they lost by 20 to Illinois, who granted is a number 1 seed, but they didn't even have their best player, and they lost by 20. And then another team is Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has Cade Cunningham, who is nominee for the Player of the Year. He might have won. I'm not sure. I don't think he did, but he's that good. He is all around player. He has points, assists, rebounds, but he's still a freshman. Like LSU has Cam Thomas, but they also have Javonte Smart and Trenton Watford, who are upperclassmen. Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham is their best player, but he's only a freshman. What do you think about Cade Cunningham?
Cade Cunningham, I think he's better than Jalen Suggs, but I feel like Cameron Thomas is still better. I don't know. I just think that Cam Thomas, again, he has that versatility, not to diminish the value that Cade Cunningham provides or contributes to OSU. He's giving you 46% from field goal range, close to 7 rebounds, because, again, he's 6'8". That's like Luka Doncic size right there. And that's kind of makes him lethal because he's a guard, but he's 6'8", man. He's 6'8", 220 pounds as a guard. Like, where have you heard that before? I mean, besides Luka again, but this is how the game is changing. Everybody can play almost any position. I think he needs to become a better playmaker. He's sort of just sticking to offense right now, but I feel like he can do that as well. And then also averaging about 20 points, 21 points in that range. Today he went off against Texas, or not today. I don't know when the last game against Texas, 29 points. So a lot of offensive lethal power from Cade Cunningham. He is again one of the highest mentioned names in NBA draft prospects or in those rumors. I'm sure a lot of people have heard Cade Cunningham in those talks. He definitely provides a lot of a lethal force for OSU, and I'm putting OSU as one of as a possible contender. I don't know if it's as high as someone else, but I feel like OSU is definitely in there, more than probably Texas Tech, like we stated before with Mac McClung. But I feel like OSU has a decent chance.
Yeah, I like what you said about his size, and I do agree he may not be as good of a scorer or as versatile as Cam Thomas. I'm going to have to disagree with you about that because I think that although Cam Thomas is a better scorer, I think Cade Cunningham, with the size that you need in the NBA, and he's more of a playmaker for his teammates. Cam Thomas isn't necessarily like that. He doesn't pass as much and he doesn't create for his teammates, but I do think that Cade Cunningham can do that, and he's bigger, so he gets more rebounds. And he's probably a better defender than Cam Thomas, but I do see the reason why I think Cam Thomas is a better player. Now I'm going to move on to my Final Four predictions and my championship prediction. First, like I stated earlier, Gonzaga, Baylor, and Illinois. I do think that they're going to make the Final Four. I know they're all 1 seeds. I know that typically in past March Madnesses, there's a mixture of 2, 3, 4, sometimes a Cinderella of like an 11 or 6 or something. But I do think that this year, Gonzaga, Baylor, and Illinois stand out a lot compared to the rest of the field. I don't think that this field of teams has as much depth as the March Madness has had in previous years. But the fourth spot is really difficult to me because I think Michigan is the other number 1 seed. I don't think they're going to make the Final Four. They don't have the depth, and I said they have a lot of injuries. And then Oklahoma State is, like I said, they could get upset pretty easily. One team that I'm going to put them in my top 4. I would say Texas. They just won the Big 12 championship. They're a very hot team. They have a lot of wins of recently. They struggled in the middle of the season, but they're picking up at the right time. I'm going to put them in my final four, but the fourth spot is definitely up for grabs, in my opinion. It could go to Houston, maybe Iowa, Ohio State. It could go to anyone, but I'm going to put Texas there in my fourth spot. And then for winning the championship, I'm going to put Illinois. I think they have a lot of depth. I watched them twice against Indiana. They won one game in overtime, and then they won another game pretty handily. Their best player, Ayo Dosunmu, he's an all-around player, a triple-double machine. I'm going to compare him to Russell Westbrook. He looks a lot like prime Russell Westbrook. He's a decent jumper. He does seem a lot like Russell Westbrook. And what do you think about Ayo Dosunmu?
So for Ayo Dosunmu, right, from all the prospects that we just talked about, or like the key prospects, which were Jalen Suggs, Cameron Thomas, Cade Cunningham, and now Ayo Dosunmu, I feel like Ayo is the best playmaker out of all of them. He has a lot of nice vision. And unlike Russ, even though the old Russ was better at taking threes, Ayo is much better, I feel like, from three-point range and finishing. So I kind of wrote this down, which was three and finishing are go-to for Ayo Dosunmu. And also, nice vision. Those are my three key points for Ayo Dosunmu. And he's definitely someone, I don't know if he can clutch up, though. That's my only problem. He's shooting close to 50% from field goal range, 6 rebounds, 21 points per game, and 5 assists. So that's pretty good for a college level athlete in his junior year. My only question is he clutch enough? Can he make those fourth quarter shots that matter enough for Illinois? Maybe Connor, you can answer that, but this is as far as I know about Ayo Dosunmu and what he has to contribute to Illinois.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I haven't seen him make as many game winners. Well, not necessarily game winners, but just clutch shots in the last 2 minutes of a game. Although I haven't watched them very much, but when I have, I saw that there were a lot of depth, and then he's their main player, but I haven't seen them in a close game where he shows up the most. But I definitely think he's the top NBA prospect. Well, that wraps up episode 10 of the Courtside. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to tune in to future episodes when we talk about NBA and MLB content.
Yeah, guys, like Connor said, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Again, it's our 10th episode. Also, make sure to go check out our Instagram page at _courtside_. We're putting a lot more content on there. And also check out our new YouTube page. It is The Courtside and has like a retro themed logo. But anyways, go subscribe, listen to her content, watch her content, give us a like and comment on stuff you like about our episodes, and maybe ideas for what we should talk about in the future, or any suggestions would be amazing. But without further ado, peace.